Welcome to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, where we talk all things good food, good business, and good cars. And now, here is your host, Arnold Gassita, founder and CEO of Petra Automotive Products. Let's roll.
Well, today on our podcast, I got a very good friend of mine. Brady and I met not too long ago, but we hit it off. We love each other and our families, and there was just some kind of bond between us, right? I think we know what it is, but it was just something nice. And he's a great guy who has been in the automotive business for a very long time in different segments, mainly the brokerage of dealerships, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But Brady Schmidt, thank you for being with us. Love you, brother.
Likewise, thanks, Arnold.
Yeah, thanks. And we're here in Las Vegas at Ferraro's.
Correct.
Ferraro's Italian restaurant. You're going to see some footage of this later on, but let me tell you, this place is spectacular. The kitchen, the wine cellar, the cigar lounge, just spectacular. And I can't wait to taste the food. So it's going to be great. So Brady.
Yes.
Let's start with the easy questions.
All right.
What's your favorite car? All-time favorite car?
That's an easy question. When I was 16 years old, for my birthday, my parents bought me a $1,500 1969 Camaro. And it barely ran. And I spent a year rebuilding that car from the ground up, and then got in an accident the first day I drove it to school and totaled it.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then went on to build 3 more of them after that. So that's my favorite car of all time, is a 69 Camaro.
So if you could have that 69 Camaro back, that's the one you would have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I do get both. I get, as we interview people, you get the, hey, I'm a successful business guy now, so I want X. But oddly enough, I'd say half of the people will tell you this is my first car, or the car that I had once that I really loved.
Yeah.
Which is probably attached to a lot of memories as well.
It's an emotional connection.
It's an emotional connection for sure. Of all the places you've traveled, what's your favorite?
Well, recently I would say it's been Lake Norman outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. Beautiful lake.
Really?
Water ski lake with the boat. But I grew up going to Lake Powell. And Lake Powell is a pretty epic place.
So of all the places in the world, that's what you would say is...
I've been, I'd say, well traveled, not amazingly traveled, but well traveled.
You're well traveled for sure.
But there's nothing like being on a beautiful lake in a ski boat with your family, water skiing for a day in great weather. There's nothing that beats that for me. So Lake Norman is a beautiful spot.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great. Again, the emotional touch and the special touch. Listen, I love when you take me to a restaurant that we start off like this. So we got the gentleman here, rock and roll, shaking, ready to go.
Italian daiquiri, gentlemen. The traditional daiquiri with rum, but we add Amaro.
Okay.
It's going to be a first. I've never had one of these.
No, I'm excited. I mean, I feel like we're going to drink more on this show than any show we've done.
That's right.
Maybe we'll start with a cocktail, work our way into a Billy Prosecco to open up the palate after this, and then I'll pair up the courses after.
Hey, you keep it bringing, brother. We're good. It sounds great.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Well, Brady, here we go.
Cheers. It's going to be a really good podcast.
It's going to be real good. We keep drinking. It's going to be really good.
That's really good.
Man, that's so refreshing.
Interesting. Oh, that's interesting.
Las Vegas
that.
heat. This is great.
Wonderful.
Our director always tells us, don't stop talking because people are listening,
Right.
not just seeing. And when you
right.
taste something like that, it's like, man, how do you keep talking? It's so good.
Describe it.
It's fruity.
It is fruity.
And
It's got like that. You could definitely taste the orange peel. What did he say it was? Like an Italian margarita?
Italian martini.
Oh, Italian martini.
Yeah, it's got a little kick to it too.
It's got a little kick, and you can taste the orange peel. So, I mean, it tastes great. It's refreshing.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So, your business is your main business or your core business, I know you get into other things, is selling dealerships.
That's correct.
Okay? National
Business brokers.
Business Brokers. 45 years old, started by your dad.
Started by my dad.
Tell me how your dad started that business.
Well, that's a good story. So he lived in Utah, married to my mom. They got tired of the winters, decided to go to the airport and fly to take the next flight to a warm climate. They didn't care where it was. They didn't know if they'd end up in Florida, Texas,
So they went to the
California.
airport and said, next flight out?
They packed a bag and went to the airport and took me with them. We ended up landing in Orange County,
Man, I like your dad already.
John
That's like
Wayne
crazy.
Airport. And before that weekend was over, they had bought a house in Mission Viejo, California. He was an accountant in Utah, a public accountant, and he was tired of doing people's books and wanted to be in business for himself. So they moved to Southern California, brought me out. I was 8 years old. And at the time, there were businesses popping up on every corner because it was the first master planned community in the United States, Mission Viejo, and they had retail centers on every corner down the neighborhoods, basically on the main streets. And he decided he wanted to buy a business. So he looked for someone that could show him businesses and could not find a single business broker in Orange County, and realized that they were real estate agents that were selling houses that were trying to show him businesses, and he realized he knew more about these businesses than these agents did. So he decided to open a company called National Business Brokers and was the first business broker in Orange County in 1978.
So it wasn't just dealerships then.
Back then it was everything. It was
He was
restaurants,
just brokering businesses.
it was restaurants, distribution companies, manufacturing companies, law offices, medical practices. We sold, he had 25 agents after about his first year and a half. All of the people that were selling homes realized they could work from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, not have to drive people around in their cars on weekends and nights, and they could make more money selling businesses. And so after the first year and a half, we had about 25 agents in the office, and he was selling about 100 businesses a year or more. We did 3,500 businesses were sold from 1978 until 1984
Through you guys.
through National Business Brokers. I wasn't with the company then.
No, I know.
I joined in
Business.
91, but from 1978 to 1984, they sold 3,500 businesses. And then he took a listing on a used car lot in Pasadena, California in 1984. And it was right next to Lloyd Pearson Mercedes-Benz. And the brothers who owned the used car lot had swindled the dealer next door out of that property. They used to be sales managers for the Mercedes dealer. So my dad, not knowing that, walked into the showroom of the Mercedes store. Lloyd Pearson walks out, 97 years old. My dad said, "I've got this piece of property for sale next door. It's the natural, it's natural for you. You need it for your used car lot." And they said, "We lost that property 15 years ago when our two sales managers didn't tell us that it was for sale. The owner came over, we had a handshake agreement. Whoever decided to sell first, we were going to sell our business to each other." He walked over into the showroom. My sales manager said hello to him. He said, "I'm here to talk to Mr. Pearson about selling my lot across the street." He never told Mr. Pearson and went over and bought that lot and competed against his former boss for 15 years. So Lloyd Pearson's 97 years old. He said, "Kent," my dad's name was Kent. He said, "My son's the one that makes all the decisions. Now let me have Lloyd Pearson Jr. come out." 67 years old. And by the time they got done talking, they said, "We shouldn't be buying anything. We should be selling our business." And so they actually gave my dad a listing on the Mercedes-Benz dealership right next door to this used car lot. And the very first person that we sold the car dealership to in the car business was Fritz Hitchcock, who is an absolute legend in the car business,
For sure.
and a fantastic human being and a great dealer, and became a great friend of my father's.
So that was the first dealership you guys did.
That's right. And my dad fell in love with the car business, fell in love with car dealers, and decided from that time on that he wanted to specialize in selling new car dealerships. So from that point on in his career, all he sold were new car dealerships. We eventually ended up, my oldest brother took over the general brokerage side, and we split that off. And I joined the company in 1991. And at that time, we were only selling car dealerships, and that's how I got started.
What were you doing before that?
another crazy story. So I was in
That's
college.
why we're here. We want all these crazy stories.
I was graduating from Biola University in Southern California, and swore I'd never go work for my dad. We were great friends, had tremendous amount of respect. He was very successful, and I thought I needed to go out and make my own mark. So I had actually committed to a job out of college, and I get a call from my father a week before I graduate telling me that he had just found out that his partner of 13 years had been embezzling from him and that millions of dollars were taken. And in fact, the way we found out, his partner had passed away, and the way we found out was the authorities showed up at the company to arrest my dad because his partner was kiting checks between 6 banks. Before electronic banking, he would write a check from one bank, deposit it another, write a check, deposit it, write a check, deposit it.
Oh my gosh.
And that float ended up being about $3 million.
Under the company name.
Under the company name. And that float ended up being about $3 million by the time it was done over the course of many years. And we found out at that point, my dad was out doing deals. He was not paying attention to the business. And he was an accountant, ironically, but it was one of his dear friends from childhood.
They kind of divide and
They'd
conquer.
known each other since they were kids and trusted him. We had agents holding commission checks. We had income taxes for the company that hadn't been paid for years, with notices that were coming to his home because he had started changing the address to his home, so none of the mail would come into the office. It was a disaster. In fact, my dad's attorney and his accountant told him he should file bankruptcy, and he said, "We're not going to file bankruptcy. We're going to pay everybody back." And so he asked me to come work with him to help work him out of the hole. It took us 10 years. That was my first job. Was he would collect money from a commission, and I would have 50 vendors that we owed money to, and I would be passing out $5,000 here and $10,000 there.
Your first job is working for dad, who you didn't want to work for. Right? Even though you had a good relationship, but you just didn't want to do that.
Yep.
And come help save the company on top of that.
It was. I mean, my dad saved the company. He was a phenomenal businessman and great salesman.
When you say that, what do you think made your dad so special, so phenomenal, such a great salesperson? What if you could pick 3 things and say, look, my dad was successful because he was these 3 things. What are those 3 things?
The first one is easy. It was how it's how he made people feel. He made people feel cared for and special, and that he genuinely cared about them and was going to make sure that he did right by them no matter what, even if it cost him.
So he cared about you.
So he genuinely cared about people, and that came across in everything he did. He and it's something that he taught me is that it's how you make people feel that they remember the most. And if you are someone who cares about other people and make people feel good and make their lives better, it's impossible not to succeed. And that was his primary business philosophy, was genuinely just caring about people and trying to help them accomplish their dreams. And I watched him do that for 13 years. We got to work together, and everybody became his friend. I mean, every client was his friend. And so I think that rubbed off on me a little bit, and I've always cared about people. And so he was a fantastic mentor in that regard. So I would say that was the primary thing, is he was honest. The basic things, you have to be honest, you have integrity, you have to know what you're doing, you have to be a professional, you have to know your craft. He certainly knew his craft.
But caring for people, and I've said this before, we try to do that. I think, in regardless of your faith, but especially in a Christian faith, that's what we do, and that's what we should do. It should always be about the other person.
That's right.
You should always be honest, for sure, have integrity and care.
That's right.
And I'm going to tell you something. I never met your dad, but just from that description, that's you. Because you care, and you're caring of people, your love towards people, your kindness towards people. I've gone to your places of business, and I've seen how you speak to people and how well they receive your words. And they're said in a beautiful, loving way. I mean, just that description of your dad, I don't know. I'm going to tell you something. I think you got it.
Oh, that's a very high compliment.
Yeah, I think you got it. So So tell me a little bit more about the story. So you come in to help your dad, then what's next?
So, I learned the business from the inside out. I mean, I couldn't start helping selling anything for the first 5 or 6 years just because we were dealing with, my dad was out trying to bring income in, and I was just trying to make sure nobody shut us down. And in that, though, I realized that I had a real aptitude for the business and really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed the car business. I was a car guy. I mean, by the time I was out of high school, I had built 2 or 3 '69 Camaros and done the engines and the whole thing. So I loved cars. And so to be around car dealerships was really fun and exciting. And car dealers are some of the most amazing people on the planet. They really are. I mean, most people don't realize, they have a reputation out in the public in a lot of ways that's not always been great. But it's the most ill-deserved reputation of any group of people that I've ever met, because when people spend time getting to know car dealers, they truly are the fabric of their communities. These are guys showing up at the Rotary Club and showing up at the city meetings and donating money to the Little League and building the baseball field down the street. And
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
I mean, it's over and over and over again. People don't realize
how kind and generous dealers are.
That's right.
I get it. There may be the 1 or 2 bad apples out there, but the majority of the ones that I know
That's right.
are community-driven people, give to schools, give to communities, give to charities. You and I are involved in an event called Business Burgers and Cigars. Maybe 25 dealers or so at the last event. We picked up $160,000 for Giving Hope,
Yep.
which you and I both know Troy Duhon,
Yep.
in one event like this from dealers, and nobody ever sees that.
Yep.
That's
right.
Closed doors, a few guys, let's build an orphanage. They picked up $160,000.
It's beautiful. Love that.
I mean, that's amazing.
It is. It's amazing. Yeah.
All right, so you're working with him. He's out there selling.
Yeah, and so I realized that selling a car dealership in California would be the same as selling one in Oregon or Washington. And my wife was from Oregon. By that time, had gotten married and married a gal. Met her at Biola, and then she was from Klamath Falls, Oregon. And so I asked him if I could open an office in the Northwest and start selling car dealerships in the Northwest. And he let me do that, and began to really be intentional about teaching me the specifics of the business, learning how to read a dealer financial statement that I've been doing now for 35 years or so. And I went up and went to work, and it took me a couple of years. He gave me a $4,000 a month advance, and I had to pay every single dollar back of that advance when I closed my first deal. It took me 2 years to close my first deal. And then it was kind of no looking back from there. I've been involved personally in over 450 dealership transactions in my career. Our companies, we're about to hit the 900 deal mark since we started selling dealerships in 1984.
So you're about to close your 900th.
We'll close our 900th deal this year. Yeah, by the end of this year, we should close our 900th.
That's huge. 900.
That's a lot. Yeah.
900 dealers.
You know how it is. That's over a lot of years.
But that's a lot of dealers.
Yeah.
How many offices do you have now throughout the U.S.?
We have 5 offices, headquartered in Irvine, California, and then we have an office in Texas, an office in Florida, an office in New Jersey, and an office in Michigan.
When did you take over the company?
So my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer and got very ill toward the end. He was diagnosed in 1995, and I'm sorry, is that right? Yeah, 1995, and I took the company over shortly after that. I took the company over in about 2000. Well, he was still alive, but then he passed shortly after that. So 2000, 2001 was about when I took the company over.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I couldn't go into his office. I couldn't sit behind his desk for almost a whole year. I stayed in my office, which was right next to his, and his office stayed empty for about the first year until and I don't even know what the transition was, but at some point I realized if I'm going to lead this company, I need to go sit in his office and make it my office. Yeah.
Well, I know your dad's very proud of you.
I appreciate that.
As I know your wife and family and partners and us that know you, and I know your dad's very proud of you.
That's a big driver in my life for sure.
So one of the neat things that some people may not know, and we when people go to sell something, sometimes, like when, we sell Petra, I can say I sold Petra to dealers. I was in a van, knocking on doors, begging people to buy our products, right?
Oh yeah.
And then grew my way through the industry. And so I can sit down with a potential distributor or somebody that wants to get in this business, and I can literally draw them a map of, hey, here's how I started, here's how you do it, here's the pay plan, here's how it should work. There's something to be said about somebody that's played that game.
True.
You have a unique thing in your selling of dealerships and brokering deals, is that you also own dealers.
I do.
Which is very important, because when you go sell a deal, you know exactly what the owner wants.
That's true.
You know what he's looking for. You
That's
know how
right.
that financial should look for. You know where the holes are.
That's right.
Right? What advantage does that give you?
It's invaluable. So, it's interesting how I became an owner, actually. So, I've been helping people buy dealers buy dealerships for 3 decades, and have helped a lot of companies, grow, become large groups. And Troy Duhan's one of our great clients. We've sold some dealerships to him and for him. And so we've done that over and over for a number of people, and there's nothing better than helping someone who's a really good person grow a successful business. That is a very satisfying thing, and I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
What is this one that we're going to do?
This is a Milli Prosecco to cleanse a palate for the first course.
Okay.
Be right out for you, John.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, cheers again.
All right.
Not to cut you off then, but
No.
I figured we might as well you find out what we're drinking.
I'm starting to sip now, or this is going to become a very interesting podcast.
Man, this is great. We'll keep feeding this to our director so he can get drunk. Do some good edits.
So after years of helping others, I started to think about what would it look like if we became dealers, and would that be an advantage or a disadvantage for the brokerage business? And so as I started thinking about that, it's funny how when you start thinking about things and your mind kind of starts working on it, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're having thoughts about it, you wake up in the morning, and then all of a sudden opportunities start coming toward you. It's funny how that's happened in my life a number of times. And so we took a listing on a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Fresno, California, and it was a great business. But it was a little overpriced and we couldn't sell it. And so the sellers were getting frustrated, they really wanted to sell it, we were frustrated. And we thought, I wonder if they would let us talk to their general manager, who was a minority partner at the time, and see if he would partner with us, and if we went out and raised some capital, if we could buy the business. And they said yes, and that's what we did. We went out and raised some capital. We took the general manager, who was already a minority partner in the business, helped him become a dealer principal. Already knew the business, had been running it for 10 years. He became a dealer principal, which was a lifelong dream for him. And we became minority owners and had a small piece of the deal, and we had investors who had a large piece of the deal. And in that process, I was able to apply as the dealer successor on the franchise agreement, which ended up being a very pivotal piece for me, for my resume, to be able to be approved as a dealer principal myself. And we owned that business for many years. It was a fantastic investment. In fact, we just sold it last November. And great partnership with the dealer principal that became our partner, and had a great exit from that business. But in the middle of there, in 2020, we took a listing on a Hyundai store and a Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram store on Oahu, Hawaii, on the windward side of the island. Trey Vidova was the owner.
Because you were looking for ugly territories.
No, yeah, right. Listen, we go wherever the business takes us. We go. We've sold businesses all over the country, and but that was a fun assignment for sure. And Trey was a lifelong dealer, car guy, bachelor. At that point, had never been married, and we became great friends. And in the middle of that process, trying to sell his dealership, he was diagnosed with terminal throat cancer. Totally unexpected. And it hit him fast. And he became very ill very quickly, and we didn't have time to sell the business. And about 2 weeks before he passed away, he called Gary Moll and I, Gary's my partner, And he said, you know, my general manager is like a son to me. I've never had kids, and my general manager is like a son that I never had, and I would love to see him be able to be a dealer and be an owner someday. Would you guys consider putting up the capital and backing him to buy the dealerships? And we said yes, and we barely knew Jerry. And this is Jerry Romano, Jerry for the people, one of the most fantastic human beings on the planet. Sincerely, he's a fantastic partner. And so we did. We bought that business, and in the process, I was able to become the dealer principal of the Hyundai store, and he became the dealer principal of the Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram store. And we did really well with those two franchises, and Hyundai approached us and asked us if we'd consider buying the Honolulu point when it became available 7 months later after we bought this business. And so with Hyundai's support, we bought the Honolulu point, so now we have 2 Hyundai stores on Oahu and the Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram store on Oahu. And then Gary and I together bought a Ford store in Southern California just this last December.
So you have 4 now.
We have 4 dealerships now.
So now you get to experience the other side.
Yeah,
But you have experienced it because you had the Mercedes-Benz store, right?
Right.
I think every time you buy one, you probably get more and more and more hands-on.
Yes.
And so that's a great experience to be able to talk to people about what that is. When somebody is looking to sell their dealership or buy a dealership, what should they know about your company and why your company is the one they should choose?
No, that's a good question. But I do think we're unique. We're the only company, the only brokerage company whose owners are also dealers. So we really truly do understand what being a dealer is day to day, what the challenges are, what the opportunities are. We see the opportunities in a much different way than an investment banker would see them, or another broker that hasn't been a dealer would see them. And I would say that we genuinely care about everybody that we do business with. I mean, one of the prerequisites for us is that we have to really like the people that we take on as clients and be able to get behind their business philosophy and who they are, because we really believe we change lives. You know, these are businesses that oftentimes are legacy businesses that the dealers have owned them for 30, 40, 50 years. Sometimes they're second or third generation dealers. They've never sold a business before, and we take it very, very seriously. We take that job very seriously and want to do the very best we can to maximize the value of their asset, but also to make sure that the person buying it is going to take care of that legacy the way that they have. And we want to make sure for the buyer that they're successful. And so who ends up buying that dealership is as important or more important than how much money they pay for it, or whether or not they're qualified to get approval. And those things are obviously prerequisites, but trying to match the right buyer with the right deal is something I would say that we are exceptionally good at, and probably better than anybody else in our industry.
How long does it take to do a deal? Like if a dealership called you and said, I want to sell my dealer, what's the average time frame that it takes to actually sell that dealer?
That's a great question. I would say on average now, it's a little longer than it's been in the past. It used to be about 7 months, up until COVID. COVID did change a lot of things, especially on the factory side and how long it takes. Now, the factories have requirements. The states require them in most cases to reply within 60 days typically. But that process now takes about 9 to 10 months from start to finish.
So if I walked in and said, I want to buy this dealer, it would take 10 months or so, 9 months for me to buy it?
If you're the buyer and that's the moment you decide you want to buy it, from that point it could be 90 to 120 days, but typically there's
From the time I put it up for sale until I get a buyer.
There's 6 months behind that. It takes time to get the business properly prepared to sell. A lot of our competitors will take a store to market right away. We actually take a little bit of time to make sure that there's things that you can do very quickly in a store to enhance its value and enhance its appeal. And so we'll go in more as management consultants in the very beginning and point out things that a dealer can do over a very short amount of time to help enhance the value of the business. So it might take us 60, 90 days to get that dealership to market, because we want to help them make sure that they're
at the right
in the right way.
In the right way.
Yeah, that's right.
So look, you own several businesses, you're partners in several. How many businesses do you own or are a partner of?
7 businesses.
And you're successful in all of them, loved by all of them. Your culture is great. What is something, give me 2 things that people should not do in business and 2 things that they should do in business.
Thank you for listening to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, your main source for all things good and fun, business, food, and cars. If you like this episode, make sure to rate us and subscribe. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please leave a message at the link below. Till next time, happy eating!